Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by the one, the only, the Kentucky man himself, Mr. Tyler Edmonds. Tyler, we're talking about a hell of a Cubs game tonight. But before we get into anything baseball, how are you doing, my friend?
Ron, I am doing fantastic. Rough weekend, but
Yes,
hey,
it was.
but hey, it is 11 p.m. on Tuesday night. I'm feeling pretty freaking good.
I'm
Pretty
right.
freaking good.
I'm right there with you, man. It is almost we are in like Cubs on tap after dark territory at this point because of how late this Cubs game finished. And everybody's riding the wave. I think everybody's excited because when you come out after an off day, after a dog shit road trip, and you put up two touchdowns and both extra points on the Pittsburgh Pirates and win 14-1, and the kids come out to play and the vets show up and the pitching's good, and it's just a beautiful night of combined baseball. Everybody is vibing on a Tuesday night. Darren here early in the comments saying had to work, couldn't watch the game. Heck, I wouldn't have watched for the last week if it meant the Cubs score 14 runs. We're not all superstitious, folks. We're just a little stitious. And I operate in the same manner. If there was a game where I didn't watch and they scored 10, I'm not watching for 3
I don't
days.
blame you.
I'll
I
read
don't
the
blame
cliff.
you.
Yeah, I'll read the cliff notes.
Yeah.
We're doing it for the greater good of the realm here.
Yes.
All right.
So,
Scott says the Cubs are fucking back and a problem for the NL.
mm.
Jeremiah, Cardinals are officially eliminated from the playoffs, 2 wins in one night.
Oh man,
Oh, darn. And
what?
then Hank Rodriguez said it a million times before. Good things happen when you actually play the kids. Tyler, first off, we're going to get into the kids because that is worthy of discussion. The kids were good. The vets were good. Everybody was good tonight. But how good is it knowing that the Cardinals cannot play October baseball this year?
It's so crazy. It's so crazy that you asked me that because I I saw the same thing that everybody else saw in Twitterland tonight, and I just I I thought,
Rock 'em.
I mean, Ron, I thought they were supposed to I
Win
thought
the
they were supposed
division?
to cruise through the division and just obliterate everybody and just coast right into the playoffs. I mean, they got rid of that real shitty catcher they used to have. And then they got our guy because they realized that their guy sucked. Everybody was hyped on Wayno is going to get his 200th win. I mean, they got that. Congratulations. But, at what cost, right? Nobody cares. But yeah, you just hate to see it because, yeah, they were having Jordan Walker was coming and he's going to make a difference. And we got Nolan Arenado and Paulie G and all of them and Miles Mike, whatever. But ain't happening. No October baseball for you, St. Louis.
It's a sneaky little thing that we enjoy here. As everybody knows, FTC, you know the drill here at Cubs on Tap, and no playoff baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals this year. But you know who kept their playoff baseball lives alive tonight, Tyler, with that 14-1 win? It's our Chicago
Yes,
Cubbies.
yes.
And Tyler, starting this one off, how good did it feel tonight to have a low stress victory after the atrocious road trip and weekend that you mentioned in the opening of the show?
Oh, it's great. It's what you want to see at the beginning of a week, especially the final 2 weeks of this season that we know is going to be a dogfight. Uh, you played sports in school. We've all played sport,
Show
football,
did.
basketball, baseball, whatever. And this almost felt like one of those games before like the big tournament at the end of the year, like that pick me up game, that confidence booster game. And I'm not saying I don't want to say this
Get right game.
yeah, it really felt like that. I know early Javier Assad maybe might have been just a little iffy on his control, but he settled down, got out of some jams, and then like you said at the beginning, just the offense showed up and showed out 2 freaking touchdowns. And yeah, it's so comfortable. It's so nice to be sitting here talking to you about a game where in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, I'm just like, oh God, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? Like, I'm about to pull my hair out. Oh shit, I already did. But, but yeah, Ron, it was nice. It was nice to see.
Oh my God, it really was. I was not ready for that. That shit caught me off guard.
Yeah.
That was incredible. But it really was. It's nice when this team can cruise to a comfortable victory. And like you said, right, have that get right game that's needed because right now, it's one of these things, Tyler, in a little personal story. My junior year of college,
Mhm.
I played collegiate football, as many know if you've listened to the show long enough. We were 2-3 after 5 weeks of the season. We had 5 weeks left, all conference opponents. And we did the math. If we go 7-3 and win the conference, we're in the playoffs. But we got to do that. So at that point, the playoffs started 5 weeks early.
Yeah.
For us. It wasn't just, oh, you got to get there and then the playoffs, the playoffs were on the line. So like any good hockey fan that I am, I grew a playoff beard. That's actually how this came to exist, is because of that
Hell yeah.
2015 run to the playoffs in the NAIA at St. Xavier University. The Cubs are in that playoff stretch now.
Yeah.
And that's what made this game so important. And that's what makes this whole series so important, as was discussed on our Sunday show. You are effectively getting to the point now where you need some help, but you got to just take care of your own business and let everything else around you sort itself out. And it's one step, 1/6 of the next week of these last 6 home games. They did their job. They took care of business. They cruised to a nice victory. And Tyler, the comments just pouring in. Scott saying, give my guy Patrick Wisdom the respect he deserves. Filmmaker 12 saying only took 4 weeks for Canary to unload, showing off his power. Absolutely loved it. Keep him in the damn lineup. Let's fucking go. I think that's where we need to start. Is tonight's win was so cool, Tyler, because the guys that got you there, right? When we've heard from David Ross over the course of the last few weeks, right? We're going to play the guys that got us there. That's fine.
Yep.
You should. They got you there for a reason. Tonight was the guys that got you there started the scoring, and then it was the unlikely heroes that continued the scoring for a large majority of the rest of the game. It was the Seiya Suzuki's, which I know he's been hot lately, but remember, for half the season, he wasn't right because he was still coming back from that oblique injury that I truly think tormented him.
Oh yeah.
All
Dude
the way
said
until August.
Since his little break, 10 home runs since that break. August 9th was when he
out of his 19. Out of his 19, 10 of those coming since the beginning of August.
Yes.
So really, if you think about it in that manner, the night got started with the guys that got you there. Nico walks, which Nico never fucking does. Yeah. It's not a shot at Nico. That's not Nico's game. Nico walks, and then Dansby puts one in the basket for the 2-0 lead early. Then you look at the rest of the way. Seiya Suzuki helps you get on the board. Patrick Wisdom helps you get on the board. Eventually, the kids start coming through and giving you quality at-bats. And obviously, Alexander Canario had a banner night.
Oh, yeah.
For his first start. I know it wasn't his first plate appearance, but for his first start, the kid did it right. First career RBI and first career hits an extra base hit. It's a double. And then you go fucking yard with the bases juiced for a grand slam, your second AB. Tonight was the ultimate team win, Tyler. And I think tonight, what it should show, and this is not even the fuck you, Ross, you were wrong. It was just the, hey, you tried it, and guess what? It worked. You can let the kids play in the right scenarios and give the guys that got you there a day off that they need at this point in the year and still get the results you want at the end of the day, because it wasn't the best lineup they've ever had on paper.
No.
But son of a bitch, they put up 14 fucking runs with that lineup, despite what it looks like on paper. And that was, in my opinion, Tyler, the theme of tonight's win. Everybody, no matter who you are, guy you got you there or guy that just got called up, helping this team contribute to a big victory on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and it's just speaking of Canario, that's what he did. It's a difficult thing. I don't care what level you're playing at. It's a difficult thing to basically sit the bench for 2 weeks. And you're told when he was called up, hey, look, you're going to get some spots here and there. You're not going to get everyday playing time. Team's on a rough patch right now. What was it, 4 games in a row before this?
Mm-hmm.
And gets thrown in there. Hey,
5
games in a row, and gets thrown in tonight, and said that who knows with the Magical injury, which I know we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
Does he start tonight if Magical's not hurt? Maybe not sure. But hey, got his opportunity. Dude shows up. And so you love to see it. You love to see it. I know even PCA got an appearance there, and he worked a good count and got himself on base, drew a walk out of it. That was nice to see. So yeah, it's encouraging, especially with it's almost like we're all in a race right now, and all our car right now is just beat to the freaking bone. We've got the radiator coming off with, Adbert on the IL. You've got a tire that looks like it's about to fall off, and Candyman that's still hurt. Hopefully he comes back soon. And it's every team, especially in this NL wild card, that's like that. It's just all freaking dragging themselves to the finish line. And when you get production like this, when you get something like this tonight, man, who cares what the car looks like right now? It's just a humongous confidence booster, especially with this home stretch that we got.
Yeah, 100%. And Scott's 100% right with this comment as well. While we're on the topic of Canario, he says, don't overlook AC's first at bat. Professional AB moving the guy over. Yeah, because he moved the guy over, and that guy ended up scoring a run. And that was Patrick Wisdom. So it really just showed, again, how much of a complete game tonight's was from a team perspective. And again, just looking at tonight's game from a whole, Christopher Morel, for example, right? He was 0 for 2, but he got you 2 walks. That's huge. Yep. That's big for a guy like Christopher Morel.
Especially in a game like this, when you're scoring runs like, and we know Morel has had his clutch moments. He's also had his moments where he can be a little too over aggressive, especially in the wrong spot. And 100%. To draw 2 walks right there, it's huge.
Absolutely. And those both resulted in him scoring runs as well. Yeah. Good base running from him, aggressive sends from Willie Harris, knowing the speed that a guy like Morel possesses. That can steal your runs, especially this late in the season when everything's going to matter. They were obviously able to, sub guys out as the course of the game went on. Jared Young got in, hit a triple for an RBI in this one. Mastrobuoni scored a run in this one coming in late. PCA scored a run after his walk in the grand slam by Canario. Then Canario got to play a little left field tonight as a result of it. They allowed Ian Happ to get a little bit of a breather. He was 1 for 3 with a walk. A 3-hit night from Seiya Suzuki, 2 from
Jared
Swanson.
Young.
Yeah. Everybody on this Cubs team tonight, especially from a bats perspective, contributed and helped this Cubs team win tonight.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just hopefully tonight's game, and in the past, in the second half, especially when we've had one big scoring game out, one big scoring outburst, they seem to tend to come in bunches. So maybe God, I really hope this is a sign of just good things to come from this offense that we have been just screaming at to show up these past 2 weeks. And so hopefully tonight is just the start of it.
100%. Another quick comment in regards to Canario and the bats. Hank says Canario has some serious Luis Robert vibes at the plate. Insane power. Agreed. I mean, he's a big, strong dude. He led the minors in home runs just a season ago. People forget. how good he was a year ago. Tyler, quickly to derail us before getting us back on track here, our buddy Juice in the comments. Tyler, are you drinking coffee now too? He wants to know,
Hey,
did Joey get you on the late night Joe?
we need we need some type of we need to get with a coffee company, like a Joey Knows Nothing coffee, like coffee brand or something like that, and just call it Late Night Joey or just something. But yeah,
Oh,
I'm on it.
that's a branding idea. That's a
Yeah,
branding idea. Late night cup of Joe and on tap special. And
I
we can
like it.
make cold brew, so it's legitimately on
Yeah,
tap.
yeah, I like it.
Magic minds out here. Scott says Ian Happ likes coffee. Well, so does Cubs on tap. It feels like a logical
Yeah.
partnership. Who knows? Maybe crazy shit has happened before. Tyler, before we completely start talking about some of the injury news in regards to Madrigal and things like that, obviously we've highlighted the bats. As we mentioned tonight, a slew of guys getting on the score sheet. Great offensive night from the team as a whole. Worth noting in this game, Seiya Suzuki raised his slugging like 17 points.
Mm.
He went from an 816 at the beginning of the game to an 832.
Just when I mean, at the beginning of the second half, it looked like I mean, there was people doubting Saya, and
Yeah. There was people here
if
at
you
Cubs
would
on
ask,
Tap doubting Seiya.
if you would ask most people, hey, would Seiya Suzuki get 20 home runs by the end of the season? I'm going to bet most of them would have said, hell no. And the dude is at 19 right now.
Yeah. He's got a hell
The
of a
dude is
chance.
one home run away from 20 home runs. Pretty impressive considering, like you said earlier, he's been hurt most of the season. June, July for him was just god awful. And then, so that's, basically, let's just say at least 3 months out of the season, he's been either injured or just wasn't himself, and probably because he was still injured.
Mhm.
And now, just finally, I'm telling you, that deal that he signed, what was it, 84 million?
Something like that.
Something like that, is looking
And
more
some of
and
that was
more.
posting fees. I think it was
Yes,
technically
yes.
70 mil
Yeah, it was. He had some type of.
or
I think
80
yeah,
mil.
something like that.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
that deal is looking more and more like a steal, and people forget the dude. The dude can play defense pretty well too.
Yeah, I think because of the first year that he had, and a lot of people saw the underlying numbers were a little rough.
Yeah.
They immediately wrote him off from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah.
But agreed. I think in the grand scheme of it, he is still a very solid defender that just took a year to acclimate to
Yeah.
playing at Wrigley Field. Worth noting, I've got the contract here for you. It was a 5-year, $85 million
85. I got you.
contract, which breaks out as the following. In year one, he only made $8 million, a $1 million signing bonus, and $7 million base salary. So they clearly knew he was going to have a struggle year in year one, and they were going to pay him like a big leaguer, an impact player in years 2 through 5 of this deal. $1 million signing bonuses down the whole way. His average, his base salary over the next couple of years, this year was 17 million, next year 20 million, and then 18 million for the next 2 years after that. So, yeah, I mean, he has really started to step up and be that guy that a lot of people needed him to be. And I think the Cubs needed him to be, even just mentally and on the field. A couple of quick comments here before we change topics ever so slightly. Scott says, pull the receipts. Cub Twitter has doubted Hap, Seiya, Wisdom, Ross, to name a few. I doubted Hap and Seiya earlier in the season. I called them out multiple times, more so because I told people in here, I'm on record of saying this. I like being wrong when I'm negative. So sometimes I'll just call people out just so they metaphorically spit in my face and make me look like an asshole. I'm totally okay with that. That being said, Scott finishes with, those are the fans that wrote the Cubs off after going 3-1 or down 3-1 in 2016. And Darren dropping in with another comment here. He says, I agree with you guys. Injuries were a bother for Seiya. He's just not a little hashtag. Oh, well, he bleached. He's not a little bitch to use it for an excuse, or no one can understand what he's saying. I think it was for Seiya that he just wasn't healthy, and he's come back and he's proven what kind of player is when he's healthy. He's taken that second year stride. It just came a little late. And I think that should give people a lot of excitement for next year, while still appreciating what he's going to do to help this team try and make the playoffs down the stretch here for the next week or so. Tyler, before we completely move on from Tuesday night's game, we got to talk a little bit about the pitching, because pitching was really fucking good tonight.
Yeah.
Obviously, Assad didn't go 6. I know you said that on Twitter, like, oh, no sixth
Maybe.
from Assad. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
agree. I would have liked to see him maybe. I mean, I know he's at like 84, 85 pitches. His control was a little. Once again, he only gave up one run,
Hmm.
but I mean, he had 8 strikeouts. I believe that was a career high for him.
Sounds about right.
I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, it would have been nice to see him maybe throw one more inning. But still, it was also at the same time, it's also nice to get these other guys that I know you're about to talk about. That it's nice to get them some innings as well, I guess.
100%. And you took the words out of my mouth and you nailed all the numbers correctly. Bravo, sir. 84 pitches from Assad tonight, 50 of which went for strikes. His final line was 5 innings of work, 5 hits, just the 1 earned run, 1 single walk, and 8 Ks. And that 1 run came off the homer from Ke'Bryan Hayes. So he moves to 4-3 on the season in terms of record. He is the winning pitcher for the Cubbies. Obviously, no saves or holds tonight because it wasn't that kind of scenario. But Drew Smiley strikes out the side in 1 inning of work. Jose Cuas pitches a perfect inning with a strikeout. Mark Leiter Jr. pitches almost a clean inning, a walk and a strikeout. And then Little strikes out 3 with just that lone walk. The
Little
Cubs pitching,
dirty.
little dirty indeed. The Cubs pitching staff as a whole, 3 walks on the evening, 1 earned run, and 5 hits, Tyler, because none of the relievers gave up a hit. Only 2 base runners given up after Assad exited the game following the 5th inning. 16 total strikeouts from this pitching staff. And I get it. I get it's the Pirates. But guess what? We said the same motherfucking thing when this team went into Colorado. It's the
Exactly.
Rockies, and you're playing in Denver.
Exactly.
You should hit the ball out of the yard. You should win 14-1 every game. And guess what they didn't fucking do? Win. They lost the
Exactly.
series. They
You
should
know-
have swept them, and they lost 2 out of 3. So guess what? We are going to celebrate the fact they won 14-1 over the Pirates because
Oh, yeah,
them
because
taking care of business against bad teams is what they need to do down the stretch.
Pittsburgh's not going to lay down.
No.
I mean, they're not going to lay down because if people forget, Pittsburgh was winning the division, was one of the hottest teams in baseball the first 2 months of the season. Like people were
Facts.
talking about Pittsburgh being in the playoffs in October, and I get it.
Pittsburgh.
It's exactly. And I get it. It's a 162 game season, yada yada. But yeah, Pittsburgh's not going to lay down, especially for us. No shot. And back to real quick, you brought up Smiley. I like this role. I like this role that he's been able to transition over into. Like a lot of guys, especially a veteran like Drew Smiley, could have been like, F this, I'm a starter and all this and all that. And the dude has maybe accepted that, hey, I'm not in this rotation anymore. That's fine. Whatever's given to me, whatever role's given to me next, I'm going to step up and take it and just prove myself again. He's done that so far and it's worked. I like this little 1 inning, 1 1/3 little kind of like role that he's taken on so far. It's worked pretty well for him.
It really has. And you know what, Tyler, I think what we have to, give credit to this Cubs team and especially this pitching staff as a whole, amidst the way this season has gone, is that a lot of these guys have put egos aside at this point in the season. Because look at a guy that Darren comments about here. He says, I think Stroman could pitch 8th or 9th, even 9th inning if you put him in with the bases empty. But look at how many former 3 of your opening day starters of the rotation are in your bullpen now.
Yeah.
And some of that's because of injury in the case of Marcus Stroman. But in the case of Hayden Wesneski and Drew Smiley, that's just because of performance.
Yep.
But guess what? Both of them have accepted that role. Both of them have been trying to help this team win no matter what. This team is invested. And I think that's why, and Tyler, I'm gonna pause on going deeper into this, but I'm gonna put the thought in your head because we're gonna return to this here in about 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
The David Ross being fired after the season if the Cubs miss the playoffs bullshit needs to be sent so far into space that getting sent to the moon. That thing's getting sent out of the Milky Way galaxy. That take is horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. And we're going to get into that here in a second. But these guys have put their egos aside, have accepted the new role that they are in, and they have tried their damnedest to excel at that role. And that is the difference between this Cubs team and that culture being in a place where they could legitimately make the playoffs even after a bad stretch because they still have the horses to go do it. They just need to reset and be able to get the job done. One more quick comment, Tyler, and then I want to give you the microphone to share any final thoughts about the win here on Tuesday night before we start talking some of these analysis topics. For those that are clear to this, you know how Tyler and I do shows. We talk about the game, we talk about news and analysis topics, and then we talk about the next game. It always happens that way. It's a perfect. It's majestic. It's chef's kiss. Scott says, to paraphrase Fergie Jenkins, you can win in Wrigley giving up home runs as long as they are solo shots. And I completely agree with the great Fergie Jenkins. Tyler, before we get into the analysis about David Ross, before we talk a little bit about the Nick Madrigal injury, final thoughts on a blowout win on Tuesday night.
Just everything clicked. Everything felt right. Go home tonight, get you a nice meal, get in bed, sleep in a little bit. You got a late game tomorrow, and hey, just I don't mean this in a bad way. Kind of just okay. Tonight was tonight. Come in tomorrow with just that same mindset, especially knowing that you've got the balls. You got the balls coming, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about. We'll talk about here at the end of the show. Agreement with you, Tyler. I think this team needs to take this momentum they generated today in this win on Tuesday and apply that to every game of this series. Hell, apply that to every game of this homestand and even the rest of the year. But start with tomorrow, start with the homestand, keep it to a day at a time as this team continues to try to rack up games. Quick thought here from Hank. He says, I like Stroman in the bullpen too, just not as a closer. He says, just not a strikeout pitcher. He's a pitch to contact pitcher. Agree. But I think in the right situation, though, if you did need a save out of him, if you're up 2 or 3 and there's empty bases, he could give you a 1 or a 2 inning save.
Yeah.
I think he's firmly able to do that. And I think he is a pitch to contact pitcher. But if you tell him, hey, go give us 2 of your best shit, and we'll give you 2 days off, he'll go out there and start throwing a little more gas than we're used to him seeing. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Tyler, let's talk about this whole David Ross thing, though, really quick. And then we'll get to Nick Madrigal, because I saw this narrative going around on the old the cesspool app, as the Southside former GM called it not too long ago. And it makes me question why people are begging for clicks with this Cubs team. This Cubs team is still good. They're in the playoff picture. You shouldn't have to beg for clicks, because David Ross should not be fired if this team doesn't make the playoffs for some reason. I think that's the most horseshit take that I've seen in Cubs Twitter probably in the last 2.5 months about this team. Look at his body of work as the team manager. He takes over in a year where a legitimate pandemic that has happened only for the first time in 102 years occurs in COVID-19. You play a weird 60-game schedule. You play with, the old core that for him were all former teammates, and you still make the playoffs, and sure, you get swept by Miami and shit happens, but you still made it. Then in 2021, they get off to a good start. Things were looking up. We were talking about that team at one point in 2021 here, Cubs on Tap, winning a division. And then the 10-game losing streak happens, and the narrative changes, and the great sell-off of 2021 happens, and everybody's a little deflated. And it becomes the Schwisdom show down the stretch, and that was just the end of 2021. But then 2022 comes. They start out slow. You had injuries to the entire starting pitching staff because of a shortened spring training thanks to the CBA negotiations. Then you get into the season and you start to pick up steam, and you get the injection of a Christopher Morel as a young player. You get the injection of some of these guys at the deadlines like McKinstry and others. And all of a sudden, this Cubs team plays 48 and 41 baseball down the stretch. Justin Steele starts to look like a Cy Young candidate type pitcher from June 1 onward in 2022. There was a lot of things looking up for that team, and they played really fucking good down the stretch, albeit at a time when people didn't expect them to be good, and they had injuries in the rotation. We saw Javier Assad in the rotation for the first time. We saw guys come out of their roles to be in that spot and make a difference. And a Cubs team to play over 500 baseball for the last 90 games of the season. They were 7 games above 500 for the last 90 games on a team that the legend that I have his jersey upstairs, Rafael Ortega, suited up for over 100 games in that season. And then you come into this year and you have a brand new ball club, almost top to bottom, and you have to come out and establish something in a year that everybody outside of the Cubs organization and fan base thought you weren't going to be a playoff team or even in the consideration for it. And you have to deal with some early injuries to key players, i.e. Cody Bellinger. And the bat's going cold in the month of May. And yet in the second half of the season, this team has been the best team in baseball because David Ross had control over the lineup every single day instead of trotting out Eric Hosmer and Trey Mancini to generate trade value. We've only seen David Ross really have a competitive roster that he had full control over in this new look Cubs team that I think is playing more David Ross style baseball as a manager than the old core was. If we're being brutally honest, we've only seen that since this trade deadline. How in the hell are you going to fire a guy over that when he has already defied the odds of what people expected this team to do this season? To me, I will die on the hill. If you want to come in and this team does that next year and not have that conversation, fine. I think it's fair and it's warranted. But right now, I'm going to give you a quick Jerry Maguire, get the fuck out of here with that take, because that is absolutely atrocious right now, given what this team is doing. Their bullpen's gassed. You've lost starters to injury and just guys that have the front office may have bet on that weren't right, i.e. the Drew Smyly contract after a decent 2022. And yet this team is still in a position right now to be playing October baseball. That is a credit to David Ross. And sure, it helps having Dansby Swanson and Cody Bellinger and some of those veterans in that clubhouse, but it still starts at the top. And David Ross has established that culture for the Chicago Cubs. And I will, again, die on that hill. He should not even be considered to be fired even if this Cubs team doesn't make the playoffs after the 2023 season.
I agree. I think it's much ado about nothing. It's much, hey, let me try to develop a story. It's people out there. It's personalities out there that are trying to develop a narrative just to get clicks, just to get, I don't know, because it's like, I agree. You see that and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Because at the beginning of this season, hell, in the off season, we talked about this team possibly fighting for a wild card spot. And then at the beginning of the year, if you remember at the beginning of the year, David Ross, there was the video at the beginning of the year talking to his team about like just naming off the list of guys. I've got this on this team. I've got this on this team. I got this on this team. Basically
an MVP, multiple World Series winners. Yep.
In a way saying, hey, I've got a lot of egos on this team, but guess what? I think we can all come together and do something special here. Hell, we talk about Cody Bellinger. I get it. He came back to his old hitting coach here in Chicago. I think they got him. They hired him from LA or I guess it was LA. He helped reestablish Cody Bellinger. Hell, we didn't have a closer at the beginning of the season. Oh, fix that with Adbert Alzolay. Oh, where's Nick Madrigal going to play? Because he can't play third base, and we've got a second baseman. Oh, we'll throw him back over at third base. And look what he's done. I mean, I get it. He's on the IL right now. A 300-plus on-base percentage. He's like, what is it, like top 10 in defensive runs or something like that?
In WAR. I think it's in
third base something WAR. Crazy. And so, yeah, I get it. Halfway through the season, people was yelling, oh, man, fire Ross, blah, blah, blah. And like you said, he had his hands tied. He had his hands tied with Eric Hosmer, Trey Mancini, nothing he could do. And then if you noticed, not much longer after those were gone and not much longer, hell, after the All-Star break, went on a freaking hot-ass streak. And we were talking about David Ross possibly being National League Manager of the Year. And then just one small little losing streak. And all of a sudden it's like, my God, fire David Ross. But like you said, check the freaking injured list. Check the freaking injured list. It's like, what do you expect? What do you expect when you have a bullpen? There's not much you can do when you have a bullpen that is so fucking taxed. So taxed. You had, I mean, so many guys, and it's not. And then look at Stroman. I take Stroman. I use this as an example. Stroman could have been the guy that sat back and said, you know what, I'm just going to set this out because I basically got $25 million coming to me next year, and yeah, this team's pretty banged up right now. Not sure if we've got a shot at it. And I'm just going to sit out the rest of the season. And I think part of the reason, I'm not going to say this is all the reason, because Marcus Stroman is his own man, and I know he's got this character in him anyways. But I think part of the reason why Stroman came back could have been because of Ross, could have been because of the chemistry that he's helped create in this clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's huge. And I think it's just so ignorant. And it just goes to show, it's kind of like, I don't know who said it earlier in the comments. Like it's like those guys that gave up after the Cubs were down 3-1 in 2016. It's like everybody's true colors show. Everybody's true colors show when you've hit a rough patch, when you've hit a losing streak, you've got punched in the face, whatever you want to call it. Everybody's true colors show. And David Ross he's almost helped pull these guys out of that. I mean, I get it. It's been a tough stretch the past 2 weeks, but who knows? Maybe something like tonight is just something that they can build on. And yeah, it's just ignorant, man. It just pisses me off reading it, because at the end of the day, I think it's just people trying to just, the cliche, it's clickbait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And it was Scott that brought up the people that wrote off the Cubs going down 3-1 in 2016. So in agreement with you there, Tyler. And it really is a shame. And I think that's something that people need to keep an eye on here. Scott brought up, it's classic Chicago mainstream media that ruins everything. He says, I'm looking at you, 670 Sun Times and the rest. Yeah, I mean, it really is just, I understand begging the question, but to insinuate that it is, and I think some people have framed it in a way that it's, oh, do you think he should be? And it's like, well, of course not. And most people, I think, will agree with that. And I think our answer here is telling of that this is his team, and they're going to at least give him one more year at the helm, especially with a team that should be pretty competitive in 2024. And he's still got an opportunity to do that with a team in 2023 because they're not out of this race yet. Tyler, one more thought before we look ahead to Wednesday. You mentioned it, the Nick Madrigal injury. It was announced before the game today that he was going on the IL. The indication of why he was going on sounded to be pretty status quo, and people didn't really think much of it. But then David Ross came out and commented and said it's a little worse than we expected. So we probably won't see any more of Nick Madrigal in 2023. Your thoughts on that situation?
He did make the comment at the end, as far as we might see him in the postseason. But yeah, it sucks just because Nick Madrigal, yeah, his numbers don't flash off the Baseball Reference, but the dude coming into this season, I'll be honest, doubted Nick Madrigal playing third base. I think one of the only guys that has been 1,000% on the Nick Madrigal train is our boy Jake over at the Dingers podcast all season long. Guy has been singing his praises.
He is the engineer of that.
Yes, he is
of that train.
Front row driver's seat with the freaking hat and everything, dude. But at the same, the guy is just so freaking scrappy. He's going to give you a good at bat. Especially, it seems like a lot of his good at bats have came like late in the game, late when maybe we've needed a guy on base. So yeah, it sucks to see. On that same note, we talked about it pre-show. It looks like until Candelario comes back, it looks like we may be seeing a combination of. I know Christopher Morel started tonight. Tonight was only his fifth start at third base. Don't know if that's good. Don't know if that's bad. A little iffy. Hopefully, I don't know. It wouldn't shock me. Maybe we see Patrick Wisdom back over there a few games. I mean, he had a nice game tonight, but hopefully the Candyman comes back soon. And that's not a knock on Christopher Morel, though. That's not a knock on his ability to play third base. He was good tonight. So who knows? I think you're muted.
I am muted. I did a classic no in talk. If you're watching live, you're probably like, why the hell is Ron talking and we can't hear him? But as Darren said earlier, you mentioned about Morrell playing third. Darren said this a little bit earlier in the show. We appreciate his patience as well. He said, one question in the game, no hurry. How did Morrell do at third? Like you said, Morrell did fine at third. When you
Go unnoticed.
When you go, it's, you know what,
Yeah.
Tyler, you'll appreciate this because I've told people, for those that don't know, my goal by the end of like next season for baseball is to get Tyler invested in some way, shape, or form in Blackhawks hockey. That is like a mental goal of mine. And we've talked about this. That's why you're laughing.
Yeah.
That is a very similar cliche in the sport of hockey. If you don't notice a defenseman, it means they're doing their job because they just fly under the radar. And I think in Christopher Morel's case defensively tonight, it was the exact same thing. If you're not talking about any high throws or throws that get away or errors, that means he did his job, and that's all you give a shit about. As long as he can give you MLB average defense because of what that bat and what he does on the base paths, it's all the more important and absolutely a good sign.
The one last thing I'll say about Madrigal, I just hopefully, because it sucks because the beginning of this season, last season, he's always had issues with hamstring, groins, all that kind of thing. I hope it's not a lingering type injury that deals with him his whole career. Because man, when he's healthy, he's been pretty good.
He sure has. He absolutely has. You absolutely got to love it. A couple of quick comments here as well from Darren Tyler before we go ahead and move on and look toward Wednesday's game. He says, Wisdom seems like such a nice guy. Hate the struggles he's had after a big start. Root for his every at bat. I think we all can agree with that. I think everybody's become a fan of Wisdom for a different number of reasons. I think people like him because he's nice. I think the ladies like him because he's handsome. And then there's probably some people that like him because we call him Wisdong for a certain reason or another. Darren says Madrigal and Talkman never have to question their effort. Agreed. Yep. Guys that are just, they're going out there and they're being professional ball players. And then the final comment from Darren says, offensive lineman in football, don't hear their name. Good thing. Absolutely. I was one of those offensive linemen. It's exactly that way. If things are going well and you don't hear your name, that means things are going really well because you're doing your job and nobody wants to talk about you versus the negative. So, Tyler, with that in mind, let's go ahead and look toward Wednesday because on September 20th, the Cubs and Pirates will do battle yet again in game 2 of this 3-game set. It's another 6:40 start from beautiful Wrigley Field here in Chicago. In case people didn't know, if you live in the Chicagoland area and weren't out at the ballpark tonight and you monitored what the day was like, and if you weren't in the Chicagoland area, let me preface it for you. It was really rainy and cold here today, which me as a Cubs fan, I hear rainy and cold and I think, oh, wind's blowing in at Wrigley. No. The rain passed and the wind was blowing out. And it should be blowing out the rest of the week and into the weekend for the rest of this homestand. I brought this up on Sunday's show, which should benefit the Cubbies. That bitch was blowing out tonight. And that was why you saw so many balls leave the yard because that wind was about facing. It's going to be a beautiful night at Wrigley on Wednesday, and it's going to be that way the rest of the week. So be sure to be on the lookout for balls to leave Wrigley Field. Very rare this late in the season as well. So you got to love seeing it. It should help the Cubbies. But the pitching matchup, it's the dreaded, it's the loved or hated TBD for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Very similar tonight. They'll probably have to put together a bullpen game or call somebody up, or they're just on fumes trying to get to the end of the season at this point. As for the Cubbies, it is the Cy Young candidate, the lefty, friend of the program, Mr. Justin Balls of Steel. The lefty, 16-4 on the season with a 2.73 ERA and 164 punch-outs. He'll get another look. For those that didn't see, Tyler wrote the article over at ontapsportsnet.com, noting about a bunch of different updates on certain players, Albert Alzolay, Nick Birdie, among others, Brandon Hughes in that list as well, but also noting about Jameson Taillon getting skipped in the rotation. I wrote about that little nugget, but yeah. Tyler wrote about the other nugget nonetheless, as well as the Madrigal injury. That's what Tyler wrote about. But Jameson Taillon gets skipped because of the extra day off. So we see Steele on 5 days rest. We'll see the professor on Thursday. You'll hear about that from this beautiful legend of a human being tomorrow night with our boy Juice, as it will be the Juice and Tyler show on Wednesday before it's Joey and Nick on Thursday, and then Cubs on Tap burns down Wrigley on Friday. Nonetheless, we get to see Steele. We get to see Hendricks in this Pittsburgh series. The Cubs are serious about winning this series. I'm sure they're going to feel the same way about that Colorado series, but we will not see Taillon, and that is why you will see Justin Steele. Tyler, what are the Cubs doing tomorrow to get a dub on Wednesday and take the series with a chance for something that rhymes with creep on Thursday?
Well, I love the move Ross going with Justin Steele. I love with the whole off day, all that kind of stuff, because it just goes to show every series from now on is a playoff series. And with that being said, Justin Steele, I know his last start was, I believe he gave up 5 or 6 runs to Arizona. You know he's going to want to come back tomorrow and just shove. He will. And hopefully the offense can just bounce, just keep rolling with what they did tonight. And if that happens, we're going to be singing the song at the end of the night. But, you know, Justin Steele's going to show up. Justin Steele's he's going to make the he's going to set the mood early, set the tone early. You know what's going to happen. And so, yeah, offense, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Bats hit baseballs, pitchers miss bats, and good shit's going to happen for the Cubbies. I agree with you. We expect good things out of friend of the program, Justin Steele, on the bump tomorrow night. Scott with the comments saying Morel's best attribute is being the best hype man in the league. That is 100% facts. I'm 99% certain he took his jersey off when Canario hit the grand slam. And then in relation to Steele and Hendricks, he asks over under 2.5 starts the rest of the year. Tyler, I don't know about you. I say over. I think both of them start 3 games to conclude the season. Or at least Steele does. I know because of the shift in the starting rotation, Steele is set up to start the last game of the year now in Milwaukee. So Hendricks might not get that over, but Steele, I think, hits the over for sure the rest of the year. Tyler, it's going to be a great week before we completely wrap this thing up formally, as we always do. So for those that don't know, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this will be the last time you see Ron Luce on the Cubs on Tap microphone for the week. I'll be back next week. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. But that's because tomorrow night will be Tyler and Juice. It'll be a great show. I can't wait to hear you guys hopefully discuss a Cubs winner. And then Thursday night, it'll be what you've become acclimated as your Friday night crew in Joey and Nick. And the reason for that is myself and Juice will be at the ballpark on Thursday night. Very excited about that. I'll be in the bleachers. Juice will be somewhere in the regular concourse in terms of seats. Hopefully
he'll be in the suite.
Yeah, right. He's going to be all fancy, but it'll be a great night. Absolutely great night. It'll be a lot of fun. It truly will be a great time. But Friday is the day that you want to make sure you're following all of us, and especially Cubs on Tap, because 80% of the Cubs on Tap podcast host crew will be at Wrigley Field in the bleachers, taking in the final Friday 120 game of the season. I'll be there. Tyler will be there. Juice will be there. Nick will be there. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Joey there. We tried our damnedest. He was unfortunately unable to make it. But we're going to burn down Wrigley. Some friends of the program that were with us on opening day are going to be there as well. It's going to be an absolutely beautiful day. It's going to be a hooligan day. It's going to be a content day. So be sure to follow along with us. I know we're excited about it. Hopefully you guys. And if you're going to be out at the ballpark on Friday, seriously, let us know. Come have a beer with us. Let's chat. Let's bullshit. Let's have a good time.
You know where we're going to kick things off at.
100%. It's the only place we ever do. You all know we go to Murphy's. They follow us. We follow them. We need to do something with Murphy's at some point. It might be next year, but we love Murphy's. It's a beautiful establishment. They have the best bathrooms in Wrigleyville before the game starts. Admittedly, I have done what I've needed to do before games there before. Thank you, Murphy's. And yeah, it's a great place.
When you got to, you got to.
When you got to, you got to. But it's a great place to get everything started, and it will be a great day to start our hooligans. I know, speaking of hooliganisms, Mr. Joe Sanders, big shout out to Joe, by the way, for people that don't know, big friend of the program here, we'll get him on a show at some point, maybe in the off season. He and I are commuting down to Wrigley together. We are going to be on a train that may or may not get into the city of Chicago just around 9 a.m. It might not be coffee that wakes us up in the morning. It might be Murphy's beers. So
Oh yeah.
expect full hooliganisms. Again, if you can't join us physically in person, join us on the socials, and just follow along for the stupid shit. I know we're all excited to celebrate a long year, but a year that compared to years past here at Cubs on Tap, we've actually been talking about meaningful baseball. Hence the grind this late into the year, rather than deferring to the old series recaps when we get to this late in the year. It feels nice. It feels really good getting to this
Dude,
point.
we started the season in person together,
Sure did.
and we're finishing the final homestand together. It's full circle, Ron.
It's full circle, and
It's like a circle.
it's a big circle. It's funny, Tyler. The discussions were occurring tonight amongst Cubs on Tap friends and other co-hosts about next year's Cubs convention already,
Mm.
and next year's
Hmm.
on opening day already,
Hmm.
and all the good fun stuff. So be on the lookout
Alright.
for some of that as well, because we are always getting ready to. It's a good weekend when the Cubs on Tap crew gets together. A lot of shit gets accomplished, but it's a lot of fun as well. It's work hard and play harder. That's just how we operate here at Cubs on Tap. Couple of quick comments from those in the YouTube comment section. Darren said, "Man, what Steele's highest yearly pitch count till now?" I was gonna say it's this year for sure. I think last year I think it was 121 innings was his high at that point.
Yeah, because I think they really mentioned it in the San Francisco start that when he threw hell, it was nearly 120 pitches. I think it was. I mean, it wasn't exactly
I think
120.
it was 108.
Okay, and yeah, got to be this year.
Yeah, it's got to be this year without a single doubt. Hank says still rooting for Steele to get the set Cy Young, but Blake Snell's last two starts, 13 innings, 1 hit, 0 runs might have sealed it. I think if the Padres are as dog shit as they are and don't make the playoffs, he shouldn't win the award. But that's just me being incredibly biased. Hank also says hoping for a no-hitter tomorrow. Is that too much to ask for? Justin, I know you're out there listening somewhere, buddy. Just go rear back and
just do your thing.
Just do your thing.
Do your
good shit happens when Justin Steele just does his thing. And we appreciate Darren. He says, as always, Cubs on Tap is where it's at. Speaking of that, Tyler, I want to remind everybody Cubs on Tap is one of 2 official Cubs podcasts covering the Chicago Cubs here at the On Tap Sports Network. Be sure to check out our friends over at the Dingers podcast. They were live on Monday night, so last night, over here on the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube. You can also check out their podcast wherever it is you listen to your favorite podcasts. They are live every Monday at 8:15 roughly Central Time. So be sure to tune in with the boys right here and be sure to follow them at Dinger Cubs on the socials. Follow us as well at Cubbies on Tap. You know the drill, at Loose on Tap, at Teddy Freddy 270, Juice on Tap, Nick _ on Tap, Joey Knows Nothing, Bulls Guy Rob, etc. Tyler Smith, ISL. Follow everybody here at Cubs on Tap. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks. You know the drill. Bears is in full swing. The Bears on Tap boys, including our friend Juice, were live this evening. Be sure to check out their show. That is already up in podcast form wherever you listen to that, or you can rewatch it right here on the YouTube channel. If you're not already, like, subscribe, hit the bell button. You'll know when all of our shows go live. Four Feathers Crew was live a night ago. I was on that show with the boys. It felt good getting ready to talk hockey again as that season gets ready to get started. And the Bulls on Tap guys were already live, reigniting their season as the Bulls season approaches quickly as well. And Cubs fans, you know the drill. We're excited. We still have shit to talk about here at Cubs on Tap, but you've got friends that like the shitbags outsiders. So do we. Send your friends to our friends and they can be friends over at Sox on Tap as the boys do a great job covering the 35th Street Boas. OnTapSportsNet.com at OnTap Sportsnet on the socials, the OnTap Sports Network. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Tyler, Wainwright got his 200th win. The Cubs got a big win, and that's what really matters here.
Yeah.
But what do you say, buddy? We get out here the only way we know how at Cubs on Tap?
Yeah, just a reminder. I'll say it once again. We said it at the beginning of the show. We'll say it at the end of the show. St. Louis, you are eliminated from the playoffs. Maybe you
Bye.
you can watch some of our baseball. Wayno said it earlier. I think last night, basically couldn't have got 200 wins without the former Cub, Wilson Contreras. He said it, basically came out of his mouth. Anyways, fuck the Cardinals.
And let's go Cubbies, baby.